Okay, so I'm going to do these your turns, but I want you to remember again, you may have picked different numbers than I picked, so we may not come out with the exact same answer, but I want you understanding how this works. If you have any questions on whether or not your answers are correct based on what you chose, please feel free to email me and ask. I'll be more than willing to look at your actual solutions to make sure they are correct if you picked different numbers than me. Again, I'm still going to stick with some pretty small numbers here, so for this first one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a +1 and a -1. I think that's going to work out pretty good for us. But again, if you did 1 or 2, you do any, like you could do 5 and 7. It doesn't matter as long as you're picking the values and then plugging them in. They are going to work out just fine. So let's start off with f at 1. So this is going to be 12 times 1 minus 10. So this is 12 minus 10. That is going to give us 2. So our first point, or my first point, would be the point 1 comma 2. So now we're going to do the same thing with -1. So f at -1 is going to be 12 times -1 minus 10. So that's going to be -12 minus 10. Since they're both negative, I'm going to add those together. It's going to give me -22. So my second point is going to be -1 comma -22. And again, you could have picked different numbers and gotten the answer correct as well. If you have any questions on that, please just make sure to email me and I can look over your work. So the second one here, f of x equals x squared plus 5 over 9. Again, take my chart here, x and y. I'm going to go ahead and do 1 and -1 again. So f at 1 is going to be 1 squared plus 5 over 9. So 1 squared is 1 plus 5 over 9. 1 plus 5 is 6 over 9. And this is kind of the first time we've done this, but because I got down to here and 6 over 9 reduces, I need to make sure that I put it in its lowest form. So I've got to divide a 3 out of top and bottom since that is what it reduces by. And I'm going to get 2 over 3. So my first point is 1 and 2/3 is the y. So I got x is 1 and y is 2/3. So now let's do the same thing with the -1. So f at -1 means we're going to do -1 squared plus 5 divided by 9. Okay, so that's going to give us a +1 because we're doing a negative times a negative, which is a positive, plus 5 over 9. Oh wait, this is looking a little familiar. So 1 plus 5 is going to give us 6 over 9. Again, we would need to divide this out and get 2 over 3. It is perfectly fine that both of my y values came out to be the same thing. Okay, I picked two different x's and it just happened that my y values are actually the same value. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so for this next one, it has that square root we were talking about in the previous video. So when I choose my values for this one, again, I'm going to choose a +1 because 1 is a perfect square, and then I'm going to do a +4 because 4 is a perfect square. Again, I'm picking things that I know when I stick them into the square root of 4, or excuse me, the square root of x, I'm going to be able to do that and get a nice pretty whole number answer out of that. So let's start with f at 1. This is 7 times the square root of 1 over 4. So again, the square root of 1 is 1, so this is 7 times 1 over 4. And 7 times 1 is 7, so we get 7 over 4. We can't reduce that, so our first point is going to be 1 and 7/4. So now let's do the same thing with our second point here. We're going to do f at 4. This is going to be 7 times the square root of 4 over 4. Again, we're going to be able to take the square root of 4, that is 2, so we get 7 times 2 over 4. Multiply 7 times 2, that's 14 over 4. Again, on this particular problem, it is able to be reduced, so we're going to divide out of 2, top and bottom, since that's what 14 and 4 have in common. And that's going to give us 7 over 2 as our answer for that one. So our second point here is going to be the point 7, comma 2 as our y. So we've got 4 and then 7/2 as our point.